This is Texans TV. Texans Extra Points is sponsored by Community Coffee, strong as our roots, by Reliant, the official energy provider of the Houston Texans, and by your Houston area Ford dealers. Ford is the best in Texas, and by Emoji, the official business bank of the Houston Texans.
It is time, my friends. The Texans have a monstrous game on the road at Cincinnati this weekend, and we got to get all into it, got to discuss it. This is Texans Extra Points. My name's Drew Dougherty. We've got N.D. Kalu, plied his trade in the NFL for a long, long time. He was a Texan here for a bit. And you, sir, are John Harris, radio sideline reporter, team analyst, and just know-it-all guru. You guys ready to talk about a 4-4 Texans team taking on maybe one of the greatest players in the league?
Let's do it. I'm ready.
Yeah, Joe Burrow. Yeah, I like it. Let's go.
We're going to get into Joe Burrow. We're going to get into a lot of things. Here's the outline of what you will see today. It's all part of quick hits. We're going to go get a one-on-one with a guy named Noah Brown. You know him. He was explosive last Sunday against the Buccaneers, so we'll get his thoughts on the matchup. Plus, we've got Texans to watch at Cincinnati, and as always, that guy over there in the glasses, he's got a telestrator, going to do the X's and O's about a sack that we saw that was big time in the game. And like we always do, we have keys to a Texans win. What two things must the good guys do to come out on top? All right, but that's later. This is now. So complete this sentence. I'll do the paper snap, and here we go. When the Buccaneers scored with just under a minute to go, I thought C.J. Stroud and the Texans would
pack up and go home with a loss, thinking to themselves.
You did?
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, come on, man.
I thought, hey, you know what? Good effort. Great overall 4 quarters of football. It was very entertaining. I did not expect a young rook to look like Tom Brady with those last 40-plus seconds. So what you talk about a pleasant surprise, that was a pleasant surprise and growth, maturity, not just for C.J. Stroud, but that entirely young offense.
Amen. And, hey, you and I have been on the sidelines at a lot of different games where we've seen that situation happen to the Texans. What was? How would you complete that sentence I just had there?
I thought they'd have a shot for a Hail Mary. I thought they'd have a decent shot at a Hail Mary, and that at that point with Nico at 6'4", 215, Noah 6'2", maybe they tip a ball up and they get lucky, but I thought they'd have a decent shot at a Hail Mary because DeMeco Ryans did a tremendous job with his timeouts, situational analysis, did a great job, so they had 46 seconds and 2 timeouts. I thought they'd at least get a shot at a Hail Mary. I didn't think they'd get a clean look like they got from the 15-yard line. So thank you, CJ. Thank you, offense. Thank you, Bobby Slowick. And thank you, Buccaneers.
Yeah, no doubt. Explosives down the field, just like they'd had all game long. 9 passes of 21 yards or more for C.J. Stroud. And another thing he's doing really well, 14 touchdowns to the lone interception. That's better than anybody else in the NFL right now. So that averages out 14 over 9 games to 1.75 touchdowns per. Over-under. He hitting that? You going over it?
I'm going to go over.
Okay.
I'm going to go over. I feel pretty good about that. Now, what you have to be careful of against the Bengals, they do have some ball hawks.
Yeah.
There's some guys in the back end that can make life tough. They can also throw the slot god, as I call him, Mike Hilton. I mean, he's 5'7", about $185, but he's one of the best football players in the league. I think he's the best nickel corner in the league. He blitzes. He drops in coverage. He's always around the ball. You can't be flipping with the ball, but I do think you can get in the end zone a couple of times through the air against that group.
All right, he's going with the over. Where are you?
I'm going to go under.
Okay.
Only because he had such a great game last week. You talk about the 5 touchdowns. The Cincinnati Bengals defense, they're going to be so focused on the pass defense. They have one of the best pass rushers, if not, well, one of the best. I don't want to put too much on it, but in Trey Hendrickson, one of the best pass rushers in the game. I think there's going to be so much focus from Cincinnati on defending the pass that he'll get 1 passing touchdown and the rest are going to be on the ground.
So with all that in mind, let's spin the wheel. Which pass catcher from the Texans do you think shines the most? Because it's almost been a spin the wheel situation all season long.
It's been a spin the wheel situation, just like you mentioned, but I still feel like Nico Collins is your number 1 wide receiver. And last week we talked about Noah Brown, we talked about Schultz, we talked about Tank Dell. I think Nico's like, hey, hold on, I'm supposed to be the number 1 guy, so I expect him to get a lot of targets and to produce this week.
I'm going with the healthiest one.
Yeah.
And I don't know who that is. I don't know who that is. Who's the healthiest?
Nico's banged up. Yeah, John
Nico's
Mechie was banged up
I
last
hope
week.
Tank's okay, but I'm going to go with the healthiest one. I mean, I'd like to see Noah, going back to the state of Ohio where he played his college ball at Ohio State. Let Noah get in the end zone again. That'd be kind of nice. But I'm going to echo that. I think it's Nico this week. I think it's a tough matchup for them with Nico.
We're going to hear from Noah a little bit later in the show, but he's had like in every game he's played since he came back from the injury, he's had a catch of 31 yards or longer in all 3 of those games, and he's averaging 22.5 per catch since the return. So let's flip back to the run game. You alluded to it a moment ago. What's the next step for this run game?
You just got to keep trying. You got to keep banging. You know, they don't have the yards per carry that they want. We thought with Devin Singletary getting a little more carries, there may be that spark, but his yards per carry isn't where he wants it to be. But I think with the run game, you just have to keep grinding. You have to keep pounding. When you talk about run offense, when you talk about the offensive line, it's more of a mindset than it is lining up and being in the exact same spot every time that you need to be. It's more of a mindset, and you just have to keep at it.
Yeah, when you have pass rushers like Trey Hendrickson, what's the one thing they don't want to do? They don't want to have to stop the run. They don't want to have to stop the set the edge. They want to rush the quarterback. So you got to hit them in the mouth a little bit. Now, that does mean you got to take care of big DJ Reader, and we know how good Reader can be against the run. But this is a group overall that's bottom 5 in the league against the run, which is kind of mystifying in some sense. You don't have to block Vita Vea, but you do have to block DJ Reader this week. And if you do that and you stay consistent and you throw in a few wrinkles like we've seen, you got an opportunity to move the ball on the ground. John
Harris over here tugging at the old heartstrings, bringing up Grave Dave, one of my all-time favorites, DJ Reader. Not going to be my favorite on Sunday, but nonetheless, happy he's having success. Okay, let's get into that one-on-one I had with Noah Brown. Here is a portion of our conversation. Wide receiver Noah Brown is the guest this week. Noah, good to be with you. You played on some fantastic squads at Ohio State. Texans are playing in Cincinnati this weekend. Before we get into the matchup, how special is it going to be for you? You're a New Jersey native, but how special is it going to be to get back in front of the crowd where you played, in college?
It'll be pretty cool. Other than I think the Hall of Fame game, my rookie year, I don't think I've played an NFL game in Ohio yet. So it'll be cool to get back there and see some Ohio State fans.
Yeah, and you played against the Bengals last year, had a really nice day, 4 catches, 91 yards, a touchdown. Fun to play that team. And over the last 3 here with the Texans, you've been explosive. You had a 31-yarder, a 34-yarder in the next game, the 75-yard touchdown last weekend. In that span, since coming back from the injury, 11 catches, 247 yards. You're good for 22.5 a catch. What's going on?
Being able to come back off injured reserve and hit the ground running. I did a good job, and the training staff did a good job getting me healthy here. When I came back, I had fresh legs and was ready to go. It's week 6 or something like that. A lot of guys are starting to feel the season. And I think I came back at the right time and, ready to execute.
How much do you guys enjoy the challenge of playing on the road as an offense?
It's huge. I think that, your success on the road as an offense speaks to, how locked in you are on the game plan and how much you guys trust each other in communication. Because, it can get loud and, making cans and stuff like that. You guys got to be honest. I think it's a great challenge for our offense, and we're looking forward to it.
You're a young man, 27 years old, but you've got 6 seasons of NFL experience now. How much have you found, being on a new team, you found yourself to be a bit of a vocal leader? Is it much? Is it a little? I mean, what's it like there?
I kind of pick my spots vocally. I'm not too much of a vocal guy and never really have been, but I take pride in doing things the right way and trying to lead by example. So, any way I can help in that way, I do my best to.
All right. Well, Noah Brown, best of luck against the Bengals. Best of luck the rest of the way. We appreciate the time.
Yes, sir. Appreciate you having me.
The field to Dalton, and Dalton's up the left side of the field. Dalton throws back, and this is caught by an offensive lineman who is drilled by J.J. Watt, and the game is over. The Texans beat Cincinnati 13-9.
Ah, yes. That was a fun way to end the last game that you played in Cincinnati. You had all the rugby laterals going, and then J.J. Watt absolutely drives a guy into the turf there at the end. This is Texans Extra Points. You're N.D. Kalu. You're John Harris. So let's talk a little bit about this defense. What defender needs a little bit more said about him from the Texans this year? Who's kind of flying under the radar that's doing some nice things in your eyes?
Khalil Davis.
Yeah.
This is a guy that in the preseason, he was a quote-unquote camp body.
Yeah.
This is a guy that came from the USFL, and he came just from one season going into the NFL season. Typically, those guys' bodies are beat up and they don't make the team. They end up being camp bodies. Not only did he beat out some guys that were hometown favorites in Roy Lopez, but now he's producing, he's making plays, and he's on the field during games and during times of the game where you're saying, wow, this is an important down, this is an important series, and they trusted in Khalil Davis to be on the field. He's a guy we're not talking enough about.
Big time sack that we're going to see a little bit more of a little later on, but who's your guy that needs to be getting some more shine?
It's interesting. We haven't talked a lot about Jalen Petrie, to be honest. I thought Jalen had 2 huge plays the other day, and one of the funniest moments I've ever had on a football field was the fact that when Jalen Petrie made a diving PBU, he had a Burt's Bees lip balm come flying out of his pants. Like, I've never seen that before in my life, and it was hilarious. But he had a tackle for a loss a little bit later. He does a little bit of everything. And when it got really loud at Energy Stadium, he was the one safety left. He was the only healthy safety left, and so he's got to handle all the communication and did a really nice job with it. And he's got to play a big role against Cincinnati for sure.
Some guys have Sharpies in their socks. He's got Burt's Bees in his waistband. That's pretty cool stuff. That's the type of information you're going to get from guys like these two. How about the pass rush? What progress have you seen from it so far?
Well, obviously at Carolina, you get 6 sacks. I mean, and they were doing it with particular stunts. They were doing it one-on-one. I think against Tampa Bay and what you'll see in this sack a little bit later, really well-constructed scheme that guys executed very, very well. So you have that. But I think some guys are winning one-on-ones. John Grenard didn't get a sack the other day, but he won a ton of one-on-ones out on the outside against Tristan Wirfs even. So this is a bigger challenge. Literally, it's Orlando Brown Jr. So Jonathan Grenard's going to have his work cut out going against a guy that's 6'8", 330 on a good day. So he's really got to work that bend against a guy that's really tall and likes to play tall, but he's got a lot of length. So John's got to get inside that length, use his bend, rip around the edge, and hopefully get to Joe Burrow a couple times.
Hey, N.D., earlier we were talking about the Texans' run game. What's going on with the Texans' run defense? Why is it so much better this year as opposed to what we've seen really since 2018? It's been tough around here in that regard.
Discipline. And when you talk about gap integrity, that's all I watch. I watch the trenches, I watch the D-line, O-line, and I'm seeing defensive linemen against the run just in the right gap. That doesn't mean they always make the tackle, but it means the linebackers know where that ball is going to bounce out, and it helps them play against the run as a linebacker when your first phase of the defense is where they're supposed to be.
So they're where they're supposed to be. They're playing discipline. You got anything to add in that regard?
No, that hits it. I mean, gap integrity, you hear a coach talk about gap integrity and setting the edge. And I think the defensive ends have done a nice job of setting the edge against the run. Cincinnati doesn't run it well, but they run it well enough with Joe Mixon. So those guys on the edge have got to do a great job setting it.
All right, let's check out a sack. And for that, we've got a telestrator, John Harris, breaking down the X's and O's of what Khalil Davis did last weekend.
We often talk about sacks being a result of rush and coverage working together. Well, how about rush and coverage working together, but rush and rush working together? I'll show you exactly what I'm talking about here as we go to the telestrator presented by BMW. The coverage on this is absolutely pristine. The Texans are going to match these routes all the way through. Godwin's going to run through here. Cash is going to match that. Evans is going to run the dig here. It's about 3rd and 10, so he's getting to the sticks. And then you're going to see Jay Petrie. He's going to jump that right. Look, he's going to cover that. Nelson's going to take for him. They're going to bracket here. There's really nowhere for Baker Mayfield to throw this ball to get anywhere near the sticks. Okay? So, coverage, excellent. Great job matching the routes. Look at Cash run with Chris Godwin. That's ridiculous. Okay, so let's go look at this part of it up here. You're going to get an ET stunt. All right, so you see the stunt right there. Right here. It's Will Anderson. And it's Khalil Davis. So I wanted to go the end zone view, so I automatically hit the thumb. Anyways, here we go. Anderson is going to loop hard inside, and Khalil's going to step and then go outside. Now, some ET stunts are special, and sometimes you do with a TE. Sometimes you go here and then there. But this time, it's Will Anderson going. I call this a pick stunt, a pick in basketball. You're going to have Anderson, as he comes down, he's essentially going to pick the guard, and the tackle goes with. That leaves Davis like a pick and roll in basketball. It's like Khalil is the ball handler, and he's getting a pick here, boom, and then Anderson can roll to the quarterback. So this is kind of a pick stunt. Now, whether it was designed that way or not, I don't know, but I do know that teams will do this. So watch Will. When he comes down here, he's on a dead run, and he picks off the guard right there. And you can see the tackle trying to stay on Will. Khalil steps around, and what happens? He's got all kinds of room because the tackle can't get out there, and Will just knocks over the guard, and now he can get there if he needs to. But he doesn't because Khalil then rocks around and sacks Baker Mayfield. Now, I want to go back here one other thing. This is exciting stuff, right? Texans were down 23-22, but the crowd is amped up, right? Why are they amped up? Well, because of this guy. You know him. Red shirt. Watch him standing stoic. That's D'Amico Ryans. Watch him get excited after. So yeah, fist pump, coach. Give me that fist pump, coach. Yeah. And it's that energy that this team is playing with. But it got Khalil Davis a sack, but it got some help from Will Anderson and his secondary.
Looking end zone, fires, touchdown! Kevin Walter makes the catch.
Yeah, you can't tell the story of this franchise without that play, the touchdown pass from T.J. Yates to Kevin Walter, 2011. I was there, and it was a fun day. Drew, N.D., John, let's chit-chat about these Bengals. Man, Joe Burrow, he's no joke. How do you limit any damage he does?
You can't. I mean, he's one of those quarterbacks. I would say maybe there's about 5 or 6 of them in the NFL where you're not going to stop him. You just hope to limit his cast. You know, you don't want a guy like Mixon to rush for 200 yards. Joe Burrow's going to get his completions. He's going to make some great plays. It's stopping the others, those around him, from having huge games. But Joe, if you go into the game saying we have to stop Joe Burrow, you might as well not even go to Cincinnati.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing you have to do well against Joe is third down. Limit the third down production. Limit him slipping out of a sack attempt because he's slippery. He doesn't love to run, especially having the calf issue he's had, but he will. And when he does, you got to make him pay for that. And that's going to be the toughest thing. But I think third downs, limiting his looks on third downs, show him a different picture on third downs, and hopefully he throws you one just because it's something he maybe hasn't seen or it's a look he wasn't expecting. And maybe you do that. Who knows what happens with Jamar Chase and his health. So you got some things working for you, but you can't let him create out of the pocket off platform.
Listen, we know what Jamar Chase can do, who he is, how excellent he can be. He's been banged up. Hey, on the other side of the ball, tell me about your admiration for Trey Hendrickson. We talked about him a little bit earlier, but he's on his way to another Pro Bowl season, isn't he?
You know what? I feel like I try to take credit for his talents. I remember him at FAU when he played against my Rice Owls, and I remember calling that game saying, you know what? If that guy gets invited to a camp, he's going to make it to the NFL. Well, he ends up being a third-round pick by the Saints. He balls out with the Saints. He goes to Cincinnati on a $60 million contract, and he's living up to it. I would say he's actually outplaying his contract.
Yeah.
He already has 8 sacks on the season. Look, I know as a Texan fan, as a former Texan player, I should be only this giddy over the Texan players, but he's a guy that is appointment watch. You watch when he's out there. He is so fun to watch, but it's not going to be fun for this team to stop him. Laramie Tunsil is going to have his hands full.
Yeah, Hendrickson's no joke, that's for sure. Okay, let's get into Texans to watch for this game. Who's your guy?
Well, I kind of gave it away a little bit, and maybe I should go with a different one, but Jalen Petrie is going to be my guy.
Okay.
Just given how the secondary is banged up a little bit, what the Bengals can do offensively, Jalen Petrie is the one guy that can be kind of a fly in their ointment or their Burt's Bees the entire game. And so Jalen Petrie, to me, is the guy that I'm going to keep my eyes on, and hopefully he is going to go find the football and bring it back to the sideline and give his offense an opportunity.
All right, the safety went with the safety, so who are you going with?
You know, I'm going to go with the offense. I'm going to go with Singletary because I feel like this is a guy that wants to prove that he's still as productive as he was with his former team. He didn't quite have the yards per carry that he wanted with this last week, even though they won the game. So for them to go into Cincinnati and pull off a huge upset against one of the hottest teams in the NFL with 4 straight victories, you're going to have some success in the run game.
And I don't want to speak for you guys, but I'm going to speak for you guys. Obviously, C.J. Stroud is a guy we're all keeping our eyes on, so we're going outside of C.J. Stroud. So for me, I'll go Dalton Schultz. He's been producing the last few weeks. He did it again last week, had a fine game, 10 catches, 130 yards, career best. He caught a score. We talked about that banged-up receiving core. It's going to be tested, so I think Dalton Schultz gets his chances at Cincinnati. Stick with us because we're coming back, and we've got keys to a victory. Don't go anywhere. This is Texans Extra Points.
Extra Points has been sponsored by Community Coffee, Strong as Our Roots, by Reliant, the official energy provider of the Houston Texans, and by Mattress Firm, the official sleep partner of the Houston Texans.
One final segment of Texans Extra Points. Drew Dougherty, N.D. Kalu, and John Harris, guys. It's the time of the show where we wrap things up and get keys to a Texans win. What 2 things must the good guys do to leave Cincinnati with a dub?
Good guys have got to occupy DJ Reader. They got to block him. Guard, center, guard. They got to take care of him and make sure he is not wrecking the game from the inside. To me, that's that's an absolute must. Offensively, I love the fact that CJ is spreading the wealth around. You can't and don't rely on any one guy.
Yeah.
The guy that's open on this play scheme, that's who I throw it to. And I think that's the biggest thing. Keep spreading the wealth so that you're not getting rolled coverages to one guy, taking away that guy. The Bengals have got to play it straight up. Lou Anarumo is a great defensive coordinator, so just keep spreading the wealth, beat his blitz a little bit. And along those lines, to beat the blitz, better find Mike Hilton. Mike Hilton's an issue.
Yeah, he brought up Anarumo. That's a guy a lot of folks in Cincinnati think should have gotten a head coaching job somewhere in the NFL last year. How about you? 2 keys.
First key, you have to win the turnover battle.
Yep.
When you're going into Cincinnati, the crowd's going to be hyped. Joe Burrow's starting to look like Joe Burrow, so they're excited. But when you get a Petrie interception, that takes the crowd out of it. So you have to win the turnover battle. And the phase we always forget about, special teams.
Yeah.
They have to continue to win special teams. I don't know who's going to be doing the field goals and the point after, but we're going to have to get those 3 points when we're in the red zone if we can't score and win the special teams phase.
Matt Amendola was, not Danny Amendola, but Matt Amendola was signed as a kicker. He's a kicker. He's got experience, so that's probably going to be the guy who does it. You bring up TO differential. Texans are really good. They're tied for 6th. Bengals are number 1 in the NFL in that category. As for me, he brought up spreading the wealth. I'm just going to say with this, stay explosive. I brought it up earlier. 9 passes of 21 yards or more. 9 times, Bueller. Let's keep that going. And then if you do that, you think, hey, when they do run the ball, maybe those safeties are sneaking back a step or two, and you get 4 yards per carry. Get 4 yards per carry, get a bunch of explosives, and you're coming home with a win. John, thank you. ND, thank you. It's great to be with you both as always, and it's awesome having you along for the ride as well. This is Texans Extra Points. We'll be back next week. Thanks so much.